Well, hello and welcome back. In this lesson, I want to expand on some of the points we discussed in the last video regarding the Bitcoin network and explain Bitcoin mining, miners, and something called the consensus mechanism. So, back in 2009, after Bitcoin was launched, a worldwide network of Bitcoin nodes sprung up, each run by a different anonymous person or company who had no connection with each other and operated totally independently. At first, people could run nodes on their own home computers. However, as Bitcoin became more popular, it became necessary to use more sophisticated and powerful computer equipment to run a Bitcoin node. Today, if you wanted to mine Bitcoin, you would need an incredibly powerful computer system in order to do so. Running a Bitcoin node is referred to as Bitcoin mining, and the people that run these nodes are obviously called miners. As we discussed in the last video, the fact that each Bitcoin node is run by a company or individual who could be located anywhere in the world means that no government in the world can unilaterally shut down the Bitcoin network. China has several times put pressure on Chinese Bitcoin miners to stop operations, and each time the Bitcoin network just kept running as it was designed to do. According to the tracking website bitnodes.io, there are currently just under 15,000 Bitcoin nodes in operation as I stand here. And even though these Bitcoin miners are unknown people processing transactions on unaudited computer systems, don't worry, your transfer of Bitcoin is perfectly safe from interference. You see, every node in the Bitcoin network routinely and automatically shares information with every other node. Every node, multiple times every day, will agree on a single approved copy of the Bitcoin blockchain. This way, the entire network always uses the same identical copy of the blockchain at all times. This process is known as the consensus mechanism. Should a rogue Bitcoin miner tamper with any of the transactions that passes through their node, then their copy of the blockchain will be different from everybody else's, in which case their node is automatically removed from the network and can process no transactions until such time as they begin using the correct copy of the blockchain again. Now, being removed from the network prevents the miner from earning any block rewards, and those are the payments in Bitcoin that a miner receives from processing transactions. So, any corrupted transactions a Bitcoin miner attempts to process will be rejected by the network. So you can rest assured that any fraudulent attempt to steal or misuse your Bitcoin by a miner will be quickly and automatically prevented. And of course, as miners process transactions for profit, it's always in their best interest to ensure your transactions are processed correctly. The consensus mechanism also protects you from hackers. If a hacker manages to gain access to a single individual Bitcoin miner's node and edits the information they find there, then the consensus mechanism will spot those changes before the next block of transaction is processed and remove that node from the network. Now, in case you're wondering, for someone to hack the entire Bitcoin network, they would need to physically hack 51% of the nearly 15,000 nodes in operation worldwide and make identical changes on each of those 15,000 nodes in the same 10-minute time frame. 10 minutes is the time it takes a new block of transactions to be processed. This is called a 51% attack, and whilst being theoretically possible, this action would be so difficult in reality it is effectively impossible to do. This is why people say that Bitcoin is unhackable. The design of the Bitcoin blockchain is far more secure than any computer system of any government or bank. Okay, so let's look at Bitcoin mining in a little more detail. Now, in order to process transactions, the Bitcoin network groups all pending Bitcoin transactions together in blocks. At this point, each of the different miners competes to be the first to process this new block by trying to solve a very complex mathematical puzzle, which we'll go into more detail on in the next lesson. This method of mining is called proof of work, or POW for short. By solving the mathematical puzzle, the successful miner has proven that their mining hardware system is powerful enough for the Bitcoin network's needs. The more miners there are in the network competing to process blocks, the more difficult the mathematical puzzles become. Alternatively, the fewer miners there are in the network competing to process blocks, then the easier the puzzle is to solve. This variable level of difficulty is known as the hashing difficulty. And as I say this, the hashing difficulty is currently so difficult as to make it necessary for you to operate banks and banks of specialized computer equipment in order to mine a block. When Bitcoin first emerged, you could do this on your home computer, but those days are long gone. The miner that succeeds in processing a new block of transactions is rewarded with the transaction fees from all of those transactions, and in addition, a small amount of Bitcoin is newly minted by the Bitcoin system and awarded to that miner, which is how new Bitcoin is created and enters the money supply. These block rewards, as they're called, will continue until 21 million Bitcoins have been created. After that, no new Bitcoin will ever be created. After this point, miners will only be rewarded with the transaction fees of the transactions they process, and there will be no more block rewards. After a new block is mined, it is added to each node's copy of the blockchain, and a new group of pending transactions is compiled from the waiting list of transactions, and the process begins again, using a completely new mathematical puzzle that needs to be solved. This happens every 10 minutes. Well, that's the overview of Bitcoin mining. You may have read online that this method of mining is very demanding in terms of electricity use and is considered environmentally harmful. And in my opinion, whilst some of those accusations are a little exaggerated, there is some truth in this. Other cryptocurrencies use other mining methods, such as proof of stake, which is where you get to process transactions if you can prove that you own X amount of the cryptocurrency in question. Later in the course, when we get to the lessons on passive income and investing, we will discuss these staking options in more detail, as they offer investors such as you and I some excellent opportunities to earn passive income. But we'll get to that in good time. Okay, so that's the end of this lesson. As always, if anything is a little confusing to you at this point, that's quite alright, that is to be expected. These concepts are quite straightforward, but there's a lot of them to take in at first. If anything is unclear, please go back and rewatch the lesson, or reach out to me with any questions you may have. I will see you in the next lesson, and as always, thank you very much for your time.